Khurram, I've got some things in my mind. I'm coming to the master to get them solved. You got a little time to spend with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. I'm seeing a big shift in home inspection business marketing from the days where people would go into office and drop off brochures to the days of outbound calls to set appointments. We're just seeing such a shift toward that first contact being digital. What are you seeing, and how can I better prepare my company to capitalize on digital before everybody else is there?
Great question. Year to date, January to yesterday, actually. So we were looking at some of our accounts for our partners that we work with. And for most of our accounts, we do see a big number, a big increase. And for example, a client from the West, they had 90% increase in terms of leads. Can you believe that? With the same spend. So they were our clients last year, January to March, yesterday. So for example, roughly, I think we're looking at 6-7 weeks. Or eight weeks data, for example. So in first 8 weeks in 2021 versus 8 weeks in 2022, had for I would say, if we generalize it, 50% more leads came from Google ads only. Now, why that is important to understand, and we understand the industry, home inspection, people are skipping inspections, but if you notice the trend, people are getting more and more on digital side. They are listening to their realtors, their suggestions like this company is good or this company is good, but they started doing a lot of their own research. So and some of the readings that I was doing on different forums, like people started looking for restaurants online when they are going, even in their own town, and all that trend has changed specifically after COVID. So yes, definitely in home inspection industry, yes, there is online. The traffic has increased. Now for you, the question you asked, how you can prepare. Having your digital footprint, a solid digital footprint on most important channels. And you know, as a business owner, if you are using your Google Analytics, which is connected with your website, you can check what sources are getting you the most traffic. And then agencies like us, when you partner with us, we add more information to that, like market specific information. Florida, you talked about. Even in Florida, like yesterday when I was reviewing your account with your team, we did see some traction coming in from keywords or audiences that was not even in the mix before, like because you were not doing Google Ads as actively. So I think it's almost a month since we launched that campaign, and now we have real-time data, and we are able to make those changes, improvements to make sure, even in the market situation like this, we have all what we can do to capture all audiences or people who are looking for a service that you offer.
Well, Khurram, you've done a masterful job of upping my knowledge base in the digital world, and certainly done a masterful job between your staff and my team to get them comfortable to do what they need to do to really optimize the service that you're providing to us. But for the uninitiated, the terms that we hear all the time, SEO and pay-per-click. What is the difference between SEO and pay-per-click?
So search engine optimization is really talking about how you can show your website on page 1 on Google search engine. Why you want to do that? There's hundreds of home inspection companies in your area. Let's say nobody's producing content, but let's say out of 100 companies, only 5 are producing some content. They're active, they're posting blogs, they're updating their website, social media. So Google will start scanning. Google bots go out and they scan www, World Wide Web overall. So when they come to your website, they will rank you for the content that you have on your website. For example, home inspection. So, and then Google will also see, because it's a local company in Florida market for your area, how many other companies are doing this and who is the most active. So this is a very easy to understand explanation, but there's definitely a lot of technicalities behind it. So SEO is really to show you on page one, number 1, 2, 3 on google.com, versus PPC is a paid version of, how you can show your company on the top of that search engine results. Now, how that works is you set up a Google Ads campaign and for your business, and it has some descriptions, it has some headlines, it has call to actions where you can drive traffic to your website. Now, if you don't have if you're not actively updating your website or any content, you can always use Google Ads to quickly get into the mix, to show your company on top of the search results, and then slowly build up your search engine optimization. So you are taking over two pieces of Google inventory on the search results. PPC is going to be on top, and then comes the organic results. So you want to make sure you're showing both, you're taking inventory in PPC and SEO, giving your potential customers two options or more to sign up with you or buy from you.
So search engine optimization, SEO, is creating the content and doing the technical things that make it easy for Google to choose us to serve up to a potential customer.
Correct.
With pay-per-click, we're paying Google to encourage them to serve us up. And we can get there a lot faster if we're willing to do the pay-per-click. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. That is correct.
On the pay-per-click, Khurram, if you've correctly set us up with pay-per-click, we're going after the right keywords, and you're also doing the SEO for us so that we're favorable in the eyes of Google, does that actually lower my cost per click because I'm SEO savvy?
Not cost per click, because there's competition on the paid sides. But if you look at overall business, what is the cost of acquiring a customer? That is going to be lower. How? So for example, the best approach that we use as well is to set up your SEO campaigns for certain keywords, which for example, low hanging fruit. So you want to rank for those keywords first. And when you do that keyword analysis, keyword research in your market, so that's when you divide that, like what keywords we are going to use in search engine optimization versus paid ads. So paid ads are high competition keywords that you want to still build up for that on SEO, but in the beginning, you want to slowly build that up. So it takes a couple months, versus on the paid side, when you're getting leads, and let's say you're getting business from paid ads, more in the beginning and lower in the SEO side. So overall, you're building both arenas on both channels about your business. But eventually, let's say you're in month 3. Now you started getting leads from SEO as well, and you're getting leads from paid ads. So if you see the overall traffic and conversions coming from both channels and look at the overall how much you're spending, it will go down, because now you started getting leads or business from SEO. Month 6, your volume from SEO leads will go further up, and because SEO is going to be a fixed cost for you. So now your cost per lead from SEO is going lower and lower and lower. In fact, some of our clients, they are at $10, $15 per booked inspection, not talking about leads, booked inspection from SEO. But Google Ads, because it has paid competition, most companies, they don't understand the SEO part, they don't believe in SEO, so they keep spending on Google Ads. So that competition is going to be there. So your cost per conversion on Google Ads will go down eventually, which is after we keep optimizing your campaign. But overall, if you see long run your business, if you set up both things right, overall, you're getting the most benefit out of how much you are paying per booked inspection.
Well, Khurram, if we're doing the right things together in SEO and pay-per-click, is it still important that we're active and creating content on social media platforms?
Definitely. That is I always call it a booster. It helps in our SEO practices for what we are doing. So for example, one of the reason the yesterday call with your team was really to collaborate, like what keywords are working on paid side and SEO that we are looking at. and how they can adapt that into their social media and other channels. So what happens is when we do backlinks, we do all those on-page, off-page SEO work, it will just connect with your social media at some point, and it will start getting more, let's say like the results that you are supposed to get in roughly 4, 5, 6 months, you will get it sooner than that.
Are there social media platforms I should be paying the most time and attention to curry favor with Google? And are there social platforms where Google punishes me for playing with them?
Let me answer it generally, so our audience from other industries will understand that as well. So any social media that you know that your audience is on. So for example, if you're, let's say, makeup brand, you want to be on TikTok and Instagram. But on the other side, totally other side, which is home inspection company, you want to make sure where your home buyers are. Now, home buyers are on different channels. What we are seeing, and realtors, they're very important to our industry in home inspection. So you want to make sure where realtors are. So what we've noticed is mostly on Instagram, they are on Instagram and then on Facebook. Now, these are still the top 2 channels. We have recently started investing into TikTok to see what's happening there, because TikTok is a whole new video-based platform, and lots of videos are needed. And in this industry, there's so many limitations of how much video content is available. Unlike you have all those things set up, but look at like 99% of the industry, home inspection, they're shy, they don't create videos. So for you, I think we can do something with your company, to do something on TikTok to see what's the traction there. Now, why I say TikTok, I said it for a long time that it's for teenagers. It's not. So I started, procrastination time is on my TikTok, and you're going to be very careful. Set up a timer. I actually have a timer I put for 15 minutes when I go on TikTok, and I want to stop it right there. But the amount of content and information that is going on TikTok is amazing. But how are we going to target home buyers there is something that we are going to test out.
Khurram, YouTube is owned by Google. Does Google reward us for being active on YouTube? And how can I optimize my time spent on YouTube to drive my SEO, ultimately to drive more closed business?
Wally, thank you for asking me that question. This was a question that we've discussed internally so many times, and I've told myself, whoever is going to ask me that question, I'm going to do something special for them. So you did get something special for just asking. So good question on the SEO part as well. Like what's the connectivity there? So imagine let's say you're already posting so many YouTube videos, and you have hundreds of them, and all of them has 10, 12, 15, 30 views on them. But you want more, like at least 50,000, 10,000, a million views on it. Like, what's the virality there? So virality has multiple things, like how you promote that. I'm going to connect it with SEO, how that will happen as well. But the reason we are creating those videos is, of course, to educate the audience, your potential customers, home buyers or realtors, like why they should be careful about when they hire a home inspector. So YouTube has its own algorithm. Setting up the tags correctly, giving it a right title, the most important thing, having subtitles on your every single video. A recent case study I was going through, and there's a bunch of them. People watch videos, but they don't listen.
Yes.
They read videos, actually, the captions underneath. So, and there was a case study, and I mean, I can go into more examples, like why Netflix have 7 different languages in subtitles, and part of the reason for translation, but like even in English, people turn it on, English speaking countries. So that's one of the reasons. And then there is a lot more to it. So and we tested it. So when you have subtitles versus no subtitles, you get view rate to up to 90% or 100%, versus videos with no subtitles, we see a lesser people are getting engaged with it. So that's two main things. There's a lot of on the back end. So if you are familiar with YouTube dashboard, it gives you all those tagging keyword, all tag options in there. And then of course, transcribing that video into text, posting it on your website, the video, the transcription of that, and making sure the title of that page is communicating to Google with the right keywords.
I like working on that together. That sounds like a great fun project. We've, as you know, done hundreds, if not thousands of YouTube videos, but we have not done that masterful job of assuring that they're optimized on the YouTube dashboard and then feeding them back in. Let me ask you another question. Very often home inspectors are very time critical. They get interested in things. Does it make sense to create a video on YouTube and then post it on Facebook? Or if I'm doing video on Facebook, should I use the Facebook video tools?
So Facebook, because in the past it worked well. I still remember in 2011, 10, 11, 12, we used to call YouTube Video Bank.
Yeah.
It's not the case anymore. Facebook has its own video bank now. So videos that you're creating, first, you want to make sure you're preparing it for different channels. So like, for example, we are on this live recording right now. We're going to repurpose this video into a long form and in a format which is horizontal or a YouTube format, for example. But we're going to repurpose the same for Instagram stories and TikTok, for example, like vertical format. So that is important. Now, when talking about posting it on different channels, so it is important. The videos are formatted for each channel. So I think YouTube and Facebook can work on the same format. But if you're posting that video on Instagram stories or TikTok, you want to make sure the vertical like all those things like size, dimensions are working appropriately. So that's when Instagram story, for example, or reels are great as well. The algorithm works great. So you want to make sure the size dimensions are good for each channel and have it posted on each channel, because each channel has their own algorithm, and giving it the right title, captions, and making sure there are subtitles to it.
Excellent. I think I can do all that with you.
Yeah, these are all little things, like most companies, our partners that we work with, some of them are creating content, but they've been pushing it, like they would hear it from somewhere, they would start doing it, but like doing it right is more important than, I'm not against them doing it or anyone doing it, but like there's that one little tweak that needs to be added, which only takes a few more minutes to do that. And it will just put you in the right spot.
Yeah, I like it. How important is it that the content is unique to that company as opposed to going to one of many services that are in the marketplace now and they create industry-specific content, though it's generic across markets? Is there value in having generic content specific to my industry? Or is it more valuable to have content specifically created either by or specifically for our individual company?
So on the content side, when Google is scanning your website, it's looking for unique content regardless of industry. So, and if we are talking about industry, let's say there's one paragraph that is sitting on your website that Google scanned today. But the same paragraph, everything same, is sitting on another website that Google scanned roughly a few months ago. So Google is going to give you, what do you call, I forgot that word, but plagiarism score. So Google will give you put it into plagiarism and give you a score. So the normal, I would say 100%, I would my goal is to keep 100% unique content on every single page. Sometimes there are references when you give out, and Google understands that. Now, your question is how unique it has to be. Goal should always be 100%. But sometimes, yes, I mean, industry specific, how different you can become. Home inspection is still going to be home inspection. Radon testing is still going to be radon testing, but like just writing it uniquely so Google can give you your own unique ranking score and not call it a plagiarized content from somewhere else.
Let me ask another question. I create a fair amount of content, and I've been very liberal in sharing that content. I've said to home inspectors across the country, if you see something on any of our sites, whether it's one of our YouTube sites or Facebook or off of the website, if you like it, take it. Am I being punished by Google for sharing content with others, or do they recognize we're the source?
So they recognize that if you posted it first and they're copying it, well, the smart thing to do is not just copy paste, like make sure they change something to make sure it's their business related. Even it's the same industry, they still want to make most changes, like change at least 50, I would say 90% of it. But there are ways on how you can work on that. But no, you are not getting penalty on that because Google recognizes your website from before. And if somebody is using it, they are being and if they're using 100% same to same, that's when they could get into trouble. Google do that off and on.
I've got another one for you. So let's imagine that the two home inspectors, or you and I, we're creating content together.
Mm-hmm.
And that person's in the content. Is that of value to both parties, or only the person who originally posted?
It's valuable to both.
Valuable to both. Good. I'm hopeful for that. As you know, I do a lot of interviews, especially in commercial real estate. We have the Commercial Real Estate Today podcast, and we're very, very liberal in how we share that. And the reason to share it, in my mind, is to drive up the views, to drive up the exposure. So we're promoting, I guess you'd say, both companies simultaneously while we're educating and doing those things. So I'm not harming myself by sharing.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. One thing I would always say is if they are pushing it somewhere, make sure they give you a credit or tag you in their post. For example, this is being recorded, and when this goes out, we're going to tag it somehow, like be it your website, be it your Instagram channel, or any way. Like we're going to, if we ever write a blog on it about what we discussed on this one, we're going to put if you have a personal website, we'll hyperlink it. So you're getting
in
the
bio and the credits, and it connects everything together. So it benefits both. That's good. That's the goal, is to be mutually beneficial. Yeah. Right. You know, when people start thinking about SEO, thinking about pay-per-click, thinking about Facebook, and I've had this conversation with hundreds and hundreds of home inspectors over the last few decades, the first thing out of their mind is, oh, my 12-year-old, they're awesome at that. I don't understand it. I'm having them do it. Is that a good decision, a bad decision?
Well, it's a good decision for a few months until they realize that it's not doing anything. I think it's on both parts. If you as a business owner is not understanding what you're investing into, and let's say whoever, high schooler would take over your Instagram account. Of course, if they're creating great content, that is going to be awesome. But like putting a strategy on back, like that's the goal, like not just pushing content, not just throwing content, like are we able to see what that content is bringing in? So for example, in fact, great question. I can refer to this, some drawing here on my glass window here. And this is from a call that I had with one of our clients yesterday. And what it is talking about, if I can, are you able to see this?
I can see the colored very well. The black print's a little harder.
It's fine. I'll just take you through it. So these are ads, for example. These two squares are two ads on, let's say, Google search engine. These are two ads. What's the goal? Even if a high schooler is running your social media. So let's say Instagram. The goal is to bring traffic to your landing page. So if it's for a home inspection company, so this square is a landing page where you have a web form, a call button, or schedule online button. Then you have a video about, like, for example, your video talking about what is unique about your company, talking to home buyers or realtors. And then you have multiple call to actions here. Then you have testimonials here. And then you have another call to action. So the goal is to bring traffic to this particular page, be it through your Instagram, be it through your Google Ads, be it through your SEO. So even if if they understand, anyone who's running your social media, if they understand the goal and they're able to bring traffic and be able to track it, it's the best partnership. But if they don't understand that, and the business owner is looking for growth fast, that's not going to be the right decision.
You know, an experience I've had over the years, Khurram, and I think it's one of the reasons you and I get along so well. It's critical that the business owner becomes a student of the digital, that to get a book or two and just read, you know, The Idiot's Guide to SEO, The Idiot's Guide to AdWords. Doesn't need to be that branded publication, but if you can't engage with whoever's doing your social media or doing your pay-per-click or doing your SEO, you can't engage in an adult level conversation to exchange information, to ensure the business questions get answered for whoever's doing digital, and that you can make decisions based on the questions you're asked by your digital provider. It's so important to get a baseline level of knowledge.
I totally agree with this. And one more thing, if I can add here. So, for example, agencies, professional agencies, look, if they are doing that, like if we are managing social media for someone as well, now we know from paid ads what people are searching for in their Google search. We have the data from SEO campaigns. Now, when we know what is exactly people are typing in the search engine to find a service business like yours, we are going to bring that information to you. Like, hey, let's create a couple videos on that. So that's the perfect mix to have everything aligned, synced, just like you asked earlier, that if your social media is going to be beneficial if you're doing SEO and Google Ads. So if that is done in this way, there's no way any other company would show on the top of Google search result.
Yeah, it's just so critical to learn to enjoy those conversations. Something I may never have shared with you is I actually have a media license. I've been a media buyer. And I served on the board of a media company, Bluehorn is its name, that was somewhat recently sold to Simplify being a $1 billion ad placing agency. So engaging in those conversations is just so critical to being comfortable with the spend. Because what happens is when you're working with a digital provider, one of the first things they're going to ask is, what's the budget and what's the expectation? And those two questions become critically important because it's not the amount of spend, it's the return that matters.
Correct.
I share with people all the time, it's like buying a ladder. If all the customers you ever hoped to garner in your business lived on the other side of a 20-foot wall, your challenge with your ladder is to get over that wall. And what many business owners will do is say, well, I've got a 6-foot ladder in my garage. I'll put that up against the wall. And it didn't get over the wall. So then they borrow a 10-foot ladder and they don't get over the wall. Then they find a 15-foot ladder on sale and they still don't get over the wall because it takes a 20 to 24-foot ladder to get over a 24-foot wall. And once you're there, you're home free. And I think too often, business owners who are led by digital people who either don't have their best interest at heart or they don't understand the industry that they're playing in, they sell them based on a budget that's the budget that the business owner is willing to lose, not the budget that it takes to be successful.
Correct.
So if you need a 20-foot ladder and you say, well, I'll just try the 10-foot ladder and see how it works, it won't work. I can tell you that every time. And I believe it's a crime when an agency takes money from a customer that they know is not enough to get over the wall.
Correct.
I think it's important to always have that conversation about budget and expectation, that you cannot get over a 20-foot wall with a 5-foot ladder. There is no savings in the shorter ladder. So if a person says, yeah, I got a $300 a month AdWord budget, let's give it a try, I believe it's a crime to take that person's $300.
100%.
It's not
100%.
going to work.
100%. In fact, sometimes when we do get inquiry calls from smaller companies who only have one inspector, for example, and you know what I did last year? I created a presentation for situations like this. So what happens is someone will say, hey, we need it. We want to try. We heard so much good things about you. Everybody's using you. We want to grow. And when we learn that their growth plan is not going to fit into the ROI model, it's going to be not positive ROI for them with their budget in mind. So what we do, I give them that free presentation to just go and set up your own Google Ads account. Still spend $300, but in the mix, they're not spending management fees, right? And that's something I've started doing from last year, and I'm giving it for free to those small businesses to understand. So when let's say they start doing it and they're winning on it, and some of them they reach out again that, hey, can you look at this account? And we are very happy to look at that. So when we do that, we make some changes, and then they keep growing. So from there, we actually have one example so far who keeps on coming back and ask questions, and I've been doing it for free for them. So now when they started asking questions first time, roughly a year and a half ago, they were one-man company. Now they're 3, and now they're thinking about further growing into more bigger company, hiring more inspector, and potentially work with an agency. Now, again, ethical business practices is very important in Digilatics. If we already know that this is not going to work or positive ROI for their business, we tell it upfront, and we don't want to hurt their not be able to achieve a positive ROI what they would have in their mind. So this is very important. Secondly, sometimes we do start with a small budget, even though there's, like in your market, there's huge potential. Yesterday's conversation, we talked about increasing the budget right just in 2 weeks of launching. So that is why we start with slow budget, even though we know it's going to be more potential in the market. But the slow start is just to put our toes in water. I always forget this, just to test out waters, what's happening. So getting the right data with small budget and then being able to increase it. So that's a strategy that we follow, but we would never take someone whose budget is always going to be 300, 400, 500, because it's not going to be positive ROI.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. So when people are shopping for an agency, Khurram, and they're doing that, I mean, we shopped it, and that's how we chose you. I've shopped it for years and asked good questions, and I know when the answers make sense, and that's why we chose you. But why is it important, or first, is it important that when a person is shopping for a digital agency, that agency has a successful track record that's industry specific? In my case, home inspection. Is that important? And if so, why?
It is very important. It's important since the beginning, but earlier, not many people cared about it. Now, slowly they're understanding why it is important. If us as a marketeer, we do not understand your industry, if we don't, we will, even if we are the best advertisers in the world, if we don't understand that home inspection industry needs 400+% ROI in order to be profitable, I will never be able to produce the results. Because in most industries, if you have 2x ROI, you're profitable. But in home inspection, it's not. So understanding that is very important. Now, not just that, what channels are important? Like, for example, we brought Bing ads into the mix. And first time when we did that, we had to offer free management, like no management fee for Bing ads, just to prove that, hey, there is so much potential in this. Let's just do it. So when we started doing Bing ads for our customers, we actually had 90+% in conversion rate, which is phenomenal. Like you don't get it on Google because of so much competition. And Bing ads is because nobody's doing Bing ads in the industry. You're the only one playing there in your industry, for example. And when you are the one playing there, you're going to get all of it. And the audience also plays a role, because the audience on Bing is the audience who buys a computer and they don't know the tech. They would just start using internet on whatever browser comes with it. That has Bing on it. So those are the people who are 45 and above, 40 and above, or 50 and above. And also the audience don't price shop. That audience, they would call you, they need it, they would just book it with you. And that's what, because of, we get to listen to some of the random calls. And I noticed for most of our clients, it's 100% conversion rate. If they get a call, someone answers it, it's definitely a booked inspection. And it's on average, all over the country, for the Bing accounts that we are managing, we're getting 1,000+% in ROI.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing all my secrets. So let's talk about budget a little bit. What should a company reasonably expect to pay in an initial management fee to engage a professional who's familiar with the industry and can talk dollars? I got to tell you something that drives me nuts. When I talk to a digital media person and they want to start telling me about impressions, I glaze over. They want to tell me about clicks, I glaze over. I want to hear about ka-chings. I want to hear about dollars and ROI. I want to hear about how many dollars will I put in, how many dollars should I expect to get out. If I up my dollars, will my ROI increase or decrease? If I bring my dollars down, and it's that ability to have the conversation about the movement of dollars and the movement of streams of business. So ideally, if we're having the right conversations at the right time, Khurram, you can turn my budget up and down so that I'm always at capacity.
Correct.
So in a slow season, if I up budget and I'm optimizing my capacity, my cost per acquisition may go up, but I'm still profitable and everybody in the company is engaged and busy.
That is correct. And so budget is really, I always try to use analogies. So what I'm going to use here is an engine of a car. Of course, a car engine is supposed to burn the fuel and give you power so it moves. You can't just tell your car to burn 5 times more fuel and go faster like a sports car, right? That's exactly finding the sweet spot to what's the best mileage to get on a car versus on a paid ad. And it's always dependent on how much is the inventory in that market. What's your competitor spending? And that information is publicly available through different paid tools that we use to find out what's happening in the industry. So for example, in your market, there's a few companies who are high spenders. And in order to, if you're going to want to compete with them, your budget has to be the same. But at the same time, you may not have availability on your calendars for the next 2 weeks. So you don't want to compete with them at that point. So, but that when it happens that you don't have, like you have availability, your calendar is open, or you hired more inspectors and you need more jobs, that's when we start talking about, okay, how much we increase. And it's never going to be, oh, I think let's just spend $10,000 more. And like, we would never say yes to that right away, because we want to know, like on the back end, if there is inventory. If there is not much inventory, I wouldn't say, yes, let's do it. Right. I will have to make sure. Sometimes in scenarios like this, we do say, okay, yes, thank you. You've given us the max spend. Let us play with it and see what's the best use of that money. And sometimes we end up only spending 5,000. Sometimes we do spend 10,000 and we go back and show that, okay, 10,000 spent, best ROI, but there is potential to spend 5,000 more. Do you have more room to play? You want more inspection jobs? Let's do it. If not, we cap it at 10. So yeah, this just working as a partnership is very important. And I must add one more thing. Most ad agencies, because I come from agency background, and what I learned and I didn't really enjoy was when you set up a campaign and just pray that hopefully it works, that while prayers work, I don't think the campaign would.
Prayers are good, Khurram. I speak in favor of prayer, though it is not a digital marketing strategy.
Nope, that is not. And most agencies, they just set up something for you, and their management fees are according to that as well. They would charge you $200, $300 per month, and it looks like, oh wow, that's easily manageable, reasonable price. But if you look at the actual amount of work that goes into managing those campaigns, our companies who are at our level in the United States, they charge minimum of $2,500 to manage one account. And the minimum spend they take is $5,000. And if you go up $5,000, then they take percentage of whatever total spend you have on top of $2,500, right? So that is exactly the amount of work that we do, but we do it for companies who are not able to afford it. Like that's a heavy expense for a home inspection industry. So we brought large agency expertise into small agency charm. That's really our unique selling proposition, I must say.
Yes. So for a company who'd like to test the waters, your terminology, not mine, like to test the waters, what is the initial management fee to get started with Digilatics, and what should that initial spend on pay-per-click be in addition?
So there is other pieces to it, but like I'll generalize it. So for example, a company of 5 inspectors, roughly, they have and 5 inspectors. So our management fees are base fee is fixed. It's $600 per month for Google Ads management. But on top of that, if your spend is so let me say it again, $600 per month management fee and 20%, not and or. So why that has to be done? So $600 is good until you hit a mark of 20% management fee, which becomes more than $600. Let's say your budget is $10,000. That's when $600 per month management fee is not going to be reasonable for us, because now to manage that spend, we have to create many more campaigns. We have to create more audiences. We have to target your potential customers differently, because 10,000 is going to be managed through, like, let's say 15 campaigns, versus when you start, we only create a set of 4 to 6 or 8 campaigns, depending on what we've learned in our competitor analysis. So that's how the budget is played out, like how much we're going to spend on the pay-per-click. So for a 5 inspector firm, we always recommend that it has to be around $2,000, $3,000 in paid ads budget. We always start with $500,000, $600,000 to test the waters and just to see what kind of traction we are getting. And then it's kind of A/B testing as well in the beginning. And that's when we start, like month 2, we make a recommendation, and that's where we start optimizing on full throttle.
Let's do that one again and tighten it up.
Okay.
So we really want to talk to that person who doesn't know anything about this, hasn't done anything, and we want to make it simple. So it's simple and inexpensive to get started, $600 on the management fee, and then an initial ad spend of $500, and then we'll move it toward $1,000, and we'll continue to move it up as long as it's profitable. That's
correct.
The point. And when it's so profitable and you're spending $5,000 or $10,000, we'll shift the management fee to be a percentage of total spend. But it's inexpensive and easy to get started.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So, Khurram, for a company who hasn't tested the waters yet in pay-per-click, what should they reasonably expect to spend to get started with a professional company?
So for a professional agency, it's very inexpensive to start with. For example, starting with a $500-600 monthly spend for month one to test the waters and see what keywords are getting traction, what audiences are getting traction. Do you need a remarketing campaign? Plus the management fee is going to be, for us, we charge $600, very less as compared to the competition with the amount of work that is put in. And as you grow in month two, I'm going to use our example, and most professional agencies, what they do is month two is when they make a recommendation is, we are seeing this traction, this keyword is working well, these things. And it looks like if we increase our budget to $2,000, for example, and it works, let's say 5 inspectors firm who have multiple inspectors and who can take multiple jobs. So $2,000 in paid ads is going to get you good number of qualified leads. And in month two, you got to see more traffic coming in. And it overall, if you see, it pays for itself. It pays for itself from month one. You're not in negative ROI. You're in positive ROI from month one. Month two is optimizing and further improving it and bringing your cost per conversion to a lower dollar value.
I think it's important for business owners to understand that we start with a small spend, a small Correct. Agency budget of $600 to manage it, another $500 or $600 to get it started. And as the results are coming in, it funds itself to increase the spend. That's the actual goal. A small spend.
Correct.
We get a small ROI. We roll that ROI back into a larger spend, and it continues on until it basically caps out either in the market potential or your capacity. And it's finding that sweet spot, which is why dealing with professionals who have high ethics and are familiar with the industry is so critically important.
That is true. That is so true. You summed it up so well.
What else do we want to hit? I got a few more minutes and I got to jump.
We can you can ask me a question about Google Analytics and why it is important. Like why do I need to know, like anything around those lines?
Okay. Khurram, we hear the term Google Analytics all the time. What is it and why is it important to me as a business owner? How do you use Google Analytics to assure I'm at the right spend, not too much, not too little?
Google Analytics is like your profit on loss statement for your business. That is for your website. And why you want to see that is to make sure if you're getting any traffic on your website and what kind of traffic is coming to your website, how much time they're spending on average, and then making comparison. The best way to use it is we always recommend, let's say you're looking at 2022, January 1st to March 25th, for example, and then compare it to the same period last year, because you want to make sure, because your business is specific time, like it's time specific. It's in and when you compare it to the same time last year, you're going to want to see is if you're getting more traffic or less traffic, if people are spending more time on it or less time on it. So just by looking at these things, it will give you some ideas on if it is showing you negative numbers or low numbers. And it's such a nicely designed dashboard by Google Analytics that it will automatically show you things in red and things in green, which will tell you that the red is not good and green is good. So for example, if people started spending low time on your website on one particular page, which is, let's say, your packages page, and that's where you have all those conversion actions on your website, Google Analytics will show you if the time spent has increased or decreased. So that if, let's say, it increased, good sign, decrease, then you want to check through heat maps. Now, that's a whole different conversation we can have. Heat maps, one-liner is really a CT scan of your web page or your website, where people are clicking, how much time they're spending on particular section on their website, and if they are clicking, reading a specific content. So it's like, just like you do, those, what do you call
the thermal imaging?
Thermal imaging tests, you see the spots in red. Heat map for your website is the same thing, but that's the second step. First step is to always go into Google Analytics, look at your audience size, your audience increase, and compare it with. Then there are referrals, which are very important. We always emphasize on that, because referrals will show you what websites are referring traffic to your website. And in home inspection industry, we always look for realtors, and most of the time we provide that information to you, that hey, this particular realtor from that particular company, here's their link, is referring at least 10, 15, 20, 40 traffic customers every month to your website. And then we can track if they're buying anything from you, or if they're not, or what kind of. So all of those information are important for you to know if that is happening, and then you may want to reward or work with that realtor, like how you can improve the relationship. And similarly, if social media is sending any traffic, your paid ads traffic, your many other sources or channels. So Google Analytics, again, as I said, profit and loss, if you look at that for your business, Google Analytics has to get the same amount of time. If not, I would just block 30 minutes monthly to just go through that, just play around, and you will be able to find lots of information. And if you have any question, you can always come back to us. We can discuss it on our monthly calls.
That's good analogy. Profit and loss. That's what I live for. Khurram, I want to thank you for the conversation. Every time we speak, whether it's on the phone or Zoom or podcast, I am in a better position than I was before we started talking to make my business more profitable. So I'm grateful to all you do for me and for the industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Wally. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We really enjoy, this conversation. And when we get asked these questions, challenges, we really enjoy. And most of the time, I must say, we do learn from you and other people in the industry. So thank you for making time for this call.